CDA knew exactly what the green flu was, and they told the public it was just the flu. That single lie turned a hospital outbreak into a continental apocalypse in 14 days. Today, I'm breaking down every single mutation the green flu produced, what it did to the human body, and why this virus behaves like nothing nature could create on its own, starting with the infection that started it all. Green flu original. Here's the thing about the green flu. The virus didn't just kill people, it rewired their entire perception of reality, and nobody saw it coming because the government made sure they wouldn't. The outbreak started at Mercy Hospital in Fairfield, Pennsylvania. Patient 0 walked in on day 1. By day 2, infected were showing up across Pennsylvania's cities. By day 3, quarantine zones were being thrown up across 5 separate jurisdictions. And by day 14, most of the state was completely overrun, and the first special infected mutations were already appearing. 2 weeks, that's all it took. CEDA deliberately classified the green flu as standard influenza to prevent mass panic. Instead, it accelerated the spread because nobody took precautions against something they thought was just a bad cold. Transmission happened through biting and scratching, but the virus also demonstrated airborne variants that shifted unpredictably. No containment protocol could keep up with a pathogen that changed how it spread every 24 hours. But here's where it gets truly disturbing. The green flu attacked the hypothalamus, stripping away hunger, sleep, and survival drives. Then it rewired the infected person's vision so uninfected humans appeared as monstrous threats through an orange-tinted distortion. These people weren't choosing to attack survivors. They genuinely believed they were defending themselves against monsters. Now, the origin is still debated. Graffiti, survivor dialogue, and references to skull-based rabies testing all point toward a mutated rabies strain from Pennsylvania livestock. That tracks with the aggression and neurological destruction, but a natural virus doesn't compress its incubation period from 4 days down to under 1 minute, which is exactly what happened by the sacrifice. That kind of mutation speed screams human intervention. Rabies or bioweapon, nobody knows for certain. But whatever the green flu actually is, it was only getting started, because the base infection was just the foundation for something far, far worse. The witch. Here's what doesn't make sense about the witch. She has 1,000 hit points. That's more health than every special infected in the game, except the tank. She can one-hit kill a fully healthy survivor on expert and realism difficulties. She is one of the most dangerous things walking the post-apocalypse, and she spends most of her time sitting on the ground crying. That's the contradiction. The witch doesn't hunt, she doesn't chase, she just sits there sobbing in the dark, waiting for you to make a mistake. Shine your flashlight on her, get too close, touch her, shoot her. Any of those will push her through escalating agitation states until she snaps and targets exclusively the survivor who provoked her. But here's where it gets dark. After she incapacitates or kills her target, she doesn't keep attacking, she runs. She flees from her own victim in what can only be described as terror. She's the only infected in the entire game that retreats after a kill. That's not predatory behavior, that's guilt. The leading theory is that the witch retained enough psychological awareness to understand what the green flu turned her into, but she can't control the violent impulses when triggered. The crying isn't a lure, it's grief. She knows what she is, and she hates it. Some argue the crying is predatory mimicry designed to attract survivors, but the fact that she runs away after killing undermines that completely. Her physical appearance supports the damage theory. She's emaciated, stripped to undergarments, likely from fever-driven heat sensitivity or the metabolic toll of infection destroying her body. On expert, the only reliable counter is crowning a point-blank shotgun blast before she reacts. In realism mode, you just avoid her entirely. Now, one community theory with zero canonical confirmation reframes everything. Some players believe the witch was pregnant at the time of infection, that the virus killed the pregnancy, and that the crying, the emaciation, all of it is grief from that specific loss. Nobody can prove it. But once you hear it, you can't look at her the same way again. If you think the witch is tragic, wait until you see what the green flu did to someone. It gave too much muscle and not enough brain. Tank, 10 to 12 feet tall, 6 feet wide, a wall of impossible musculature with virtually zero body fat. The tank isn't just the biggest infected in Left 4 Dead, he's a biological impossibility. The green flu didn't just grow this guy's muscles, it completely restructured his skeleton to support a body that should collapse under its own weight. Every bone, every joint, every tendon was rebuilt from the ground up to accommodate a frame that no human being was ever meant to carry. And the numbers back up the nightmare. The tank has 3,000 hit points on normal, 4,000 on advanced, and a staggering 8,000 on expert, making him the single most durable entity in the entire game. In versus, he sits at 6,000. His punch deals 24 damage on normal, 33 on advanced, advanced and on expert, it instantly incapacitates you. Catch a survivor already on the ground and he pounds them for 75 damage. On expert realism, that jumps to 150. His rock throws hit just as hard while also stunning you and dealing splash damage to anyone standing nearby. But here's where it gets interesting. The Sacrifice comic gives us the only canonically identified tank in the entire franchise. Bald head, jean shorts, Marine Corps tattoo on his chest, surgical scars across his body, and leather restraints on his wrists stained with fresh blood. He broke free during a train derailment and killed every single person aboard before being locked inside. Those restraints tell a very specific story. This wasn't just some random guy who got infected. He was either a military prisoner or a test subject. Someone was keeping him restrained before the virus turned him into something nobody could hold down. The leading theory on tank mutation origins points to extreme anabolic steroid abuse or pituitary gigantism that the virus hijacked and pushed into overdrive. The asymmetry compared to other muscle-heavy infected like the Charger suggests the green flu doesn't build from baseline human physiology. It interacts with pre-existing conditions and amplifies them beyond recognition. One last detail that changes everything about how you fight him. Boomer bile on a survivor takes absolute priority. The tank will abandon any current target, ignore pinned teammates, ignore everything, and focus exclusively on the bile-marked survivor. He'll even kill common infected in his path while charging. No alliance, no restraint, just absolute singular focus on destroying whatever the bile tells him to destroy. If you think the tank is terrifying, wait until you meet the infected that doesn't need muscles to ruin your entire day. The Hunter. Here's what makes the Hunter terrifying. He looks human, faded blue hoodie, hood pulled down over his face, brown sweatpants. You could pass this thing on the street and not even flinch. He's the least visually mutated special infected in the entire outbreak, and that's exactly what makes him deadly, because this guy can clear a 3-story building from a standing start, over 30 feet vertically, scaling walls like it's nothing, launching himself across rooftops with precision that would make an Olympic athlete cry. The green flu took someone who was already athletic and turned their legs into biological launch pads. The leading theory is that the Hunter was a parkour practitioner before infection. The duct tape bindings wrapped around his limbs are consistent with parkour culture, used to minimize wind resistance and tighten loose clothing. And the mutation focused almost entirely on lower body strength rather than the full body hypertrophy you see in something like the tank, low body fat, developed leg musculature, ideal conditions for exactly this kind of mutation. But here's the thing, he only has 250 hit points. That's among the lowest of any special infected. Every single attack has to count. His power lives entirely in positioning and surprise. The pounds of damage scales with distance traveled, maxing out at 25 hit points on impact from full range, then roughly 15 hit points of claw damage every half second while the victim is pinned beneath him. Teammates can interrupt with a melee shove, and if he misses, a failed pounce creates a multi-second vulnerability window where he can barely move. One bad jump and he's dead. Only male hunters have ever been documented across the entire outbreak. No explanation, no biological reasoning offered by any canonical source, just a pattern with zero answers. Now here's where it gets weird. By Left 4 Dead 2, the duct tape bindings are partially torn away. Beneath them, bruised and battered flesh. The hunter himself ripped off constraints that conflicted with his mutated body. That's not mindless zombie behavior. That's problem solving. That's a creature that recognized something was restricting its movement and deliberately removed it, but the real mystery is his eyes. They're gone, completely replaced by a white reflective glow, yet he tracks survivors with surgical precision. Some players theorize echolocation through his signature screeching, others propose enhanced smell or neurological compensation. Nobody knows, nothing's confirmed. A predator that hunts without eyes looks almost normal, and thinks just enough to tear off its own restraints, and he's still one of the weaker ones, because the next infected doesn't need to see you, chase you, or even touch you. It just needs to vomit on you. The Boomer, 50 hit points. That's it. A single shotgun blast, a stiff breeze, a strongly worded letter could probably take this guy down. The Boomer is the most fragile special infected in the entire game, and yet he might be the single most important one on the infected team. Let me explain. The Boomer doesn't kill you. He doesn't need to. His vomit attack deals 0 direct damage, but what it does is so much worse. The moment that bile hits you, you're blind. Your teammate outlines disappear for roughly 10 seconds, and every common infected in the area suddenly decides you're the only person worth attacking. You go from a coordinated team to 4 panicking individuals getting swarmed from every direction. But here's where the design gets genuinely brilliant. Dying is part of the strategy. When a Boomer is killed, he explodes in a secondary bile discharge that covers anyone standing too close. You can't win against this thing. Kill him too close, you're covered. Let him live, he vomits on you. Every interaction is a lose-lose scenario for survivors, and the combinations are devastating. A bile-covered survivor facing a tank becomes that tank's exclusive target until the effect wears off. Boomer plus tank is one of the most reliably lethal combinations in the game, and it requires almost 0 coordination to pull off. Here's the thing nobody talks about. The Boomer was originally designed as an attacker, not a support. Early builds gave him an instant explosion mechanic that dealt direct damage to all nearby targets. It was scrapped for being too powerful. That single design pivot replaced replacing direct damage with the bile aggro system, fundamentally redefined his entire role from attacker to enabler. And the biology behind him is viscerally wrong in exactly the right way. The leading theory is that the green flu hijacked pre-existing obesity, converting fatty tissue into massive bile production chambers. His torso isn't housing functional organs anymore, it's theorized to function as a single enormous bile sac. Everything that used to keep him alive got repurposed into a walking vomit factory. 50 hit points, 0 direct damage, and somehow the most dangerous support class in the game. But if you think a weaponized stomach is disturbing, wait until you hear about the infected that weaponized her entire digestive system. The Spitter. The Spitter is dissolving herself. Look at her face. The tissue around her mouth, her lower jaw, her cheeks, her nose, her lips, all of it is visibly eroding. The acid she produces as a weapon is eating through her own body. She is being killed by the same mutation that makes her dangerous, and that detail alone makes her one of the most tragically designed special infected in the entire game. The Spitter is one of only 2 confirmed female special infected, and her mutation is built entirely around acid. Her elongated neck and bloated stomach function as a dual production and storage system, synthesizing extremely corrosive fluid and holding it until deployment. While she's alive, her skin glows a pale, luminous green in darkness. The second she dies, that glow vanishes completely, as the contained acid presumably disperses through her body and neutralizes. She's literally a walking chemical weapon that only works while her heart is beating. Her attack launches acid in a mortar arc that spreads into a pool on impact. Standing at the edges does minimal damage. Standing in the center can be lethal. A single spit averages between 45 and 82 hit points depending on difficulty. But here's the thing, after every single launch, she locks up for about 1 second, complete paralysis. Survivors who recognize that timing can punish her immediately, turning her strongest moment into her most vulnerable one. Now, here's a fascinating development detail. The Spitter originally had a visibly pregnant appearance to explain her enlarged abdomen. Playtesting found this created confusion and some controversial interpretations, so the developers flattened her stomach before release. The leading origin theory ties her mutation to a pre-existing Helicobacter pylori bacterial infection causing stomach ulcers. The virus consumed cells already infected by that bacteria, incorporated their characteristics, and hijacked the stomach's gastrin hormone production, converting normal acid regulation into uncontrolled acid synthesis. But the Spitter's real power isn't actually the acid itself, it's what she enables for everyone else. A charger can throw a survivor directly into a standing acid pool. A jockey can force someone to stand in it while riding them. Coordinated, Spitter timing is the backbone of effective infected team play. She doesn't need to kill you, she just needs to put the acid in the right place at the right time and let her teammates do the rest. And speaking of teammates who specialize in making your life miserable through positioning, the next infected takes that concept to an entirely different level. The Jockey, you hear him before you see him. That high-pitched, maniacal cackling echoing through a hallway, and every single person who has played this game just tensed up reading that sentence. The Jockey is the smallest special infected in the entire game. Hunched posture, missing lips, skinless hands and feet, constant involuntary twitching like his body can't sit still for even a fraction of a second. And that laugh, that constant, uncontrollable laughter you can hear from a considerable distance. It's simultaneously his most terrifying feature and his biggest tactical weakness, because he literally cannot shut up. But here's the thing, what he lacks in intimidation, he makes up for by being the single most annoying infected in the game. And I mean that as a compliment. The Jockey has 250 base health points, he's not tanking anything, but no other special infected can do what he does, redirect a survivor's movement. He launches onto your head, clamps down, and steers you wherever he wants, while clawing you the entire time. He's not trying to kill you directly, he's a controller, and that control is what makes him catastrophic. He can drag you off rooftops to hang from ledges, steer you directly into Spitter acid pools, walk you straight toward a witch. In Mutation game modes, featuring exclusively jockeys, he becomes statistically the most dangerous special infected because his control mechanics simply cannot be avoided through standard gameplay. Now the mutation theory. The primary hypothesis involves severe kyphosis or scoliosis exaggerated to extreme proportions by the green flu. And this is where it gets genuinely unsettling. If the Jockey was previously wheelchair bound, the virus may have actually restored his mobility while twisting the spinal deformity into something far worse. The infection gave someone the ability to run again and turned it into a weapon. Alternative theories point to Parkinson's or Huntington's disease before infection, with the green flu amplifying existing tremors into constant twitching. The uncontrollable laughter could stem from pathological laughter syndrome, a real neurological condition cranked up to 11 by the virus. And then there's the darkest theory, the missing lips, the skinless hands and feet. Some in the community believe these point to pre-infection mutation self-mutilation, with the virus accelerating existing patterns. The Jockey might not just be laughing because the virus made him, he might be laughing because he can't stop. But if the Jockey's control mechanic makes him a nightmare in small doses, wait until you see what happens when the green flu decides to weaponize a tongue. The Charger. Look at this thing and tell me it should be able to stand upright. The Charger's right arm and shoulder have ballooned to roughly double or triple normal human size, terminating in a swollen lump where you can barely make out what used to be fingers. His left arm, atrophied almost completely. It just hangs there, paralyzed, dangling at his side like it belongs to a different body. He is, without question, the most asymmetrical creature in the entire Left 4 Dead universe, and he's also the third most durable special infected in the game. 600 hit points, that puts him behind only the Tank and the Witch. This walking anatomical disaster takes more punishment than Hunters, Smokers, and Chargers combined, but here's where it gets weird. The asymmetry that should make him physically non-functional actually makes him faster than healthy survivors. The weight distribution between his overdeveloped right side and his compensating left leg creates a biomechanical balance that shouldn't work. The left leg has bulked up specifically to counterbalance the extreme right side mass, and somehow the math checks out. His pelvis must have undergone substantial realignment just to keep him from toppling over, and the humerus, radius, and ulna in that right arm would need to be approximately doubled in thickness to support the forces he generates during a charge. The virus didn't just grow his arm, it restructured his entire skeleton around a weapon it was building. That right arm has developed roughly 1 inch of callus tissue from repeatedly slamming into walls, the ground, and anything else in his path. The flesh has effectively become armor through sustained abuse. When he charges, he grabs a single survivor and carries them forward while knocking teammates out of the way, like bowling pins. You cannot melee shove him off. Melee shove. That's unique among special infected. You need explosives or you need to kill him. Once he's got someone, he slams them into the ground over and over at 15 damage per slam. But the slams aren't even the scariest part. Charge survivors can crash through windows, fall from heights, or land directly in fire. The charge itself can create instant kill scenarios without the Charger completing a single slam. His weakness is the cooldown. The charge takes approximately 90 seconds to recharge, and during that window, focused fire can burn through those 600 hit points fast. The leading origin theories range from localized steroid use creating an asymmetric reaction when combined with infection, to pre-existing hemihypertrophy that the virus amplified, to a hybrid mutation sitting somewhere between tank-level development and standard special infected physiology. Whatever caused it, the result is a creature that breaks every rule of biomechanics and still outruns you. But if the Charger's impossible anatomy unsettles you, wait until you hear about the infected that weaponized its own respiratory system. The Smoker. Picture a man covered head to toe in tumors. A massive growth dominates the entire left side of his face. Small spurts of green smoke and blood constantly leak from the growths across his body. He hasn't even attacked yet. That's just what he looks like, standing still. The Smoker is one of the original special infected from Left 4 Dead, taller than average, covered in tumorous appendages, and perpetually leaking toxic haze from his skin. But here's where it gets unsettling. By Left 4 Dead 2, he's gotten worse. 6 total tongue-like appendages now protrude from his shoulder, collarbone, neck, and other locations across his upper body. The original single tongue has become a spreading network of external organs. This mutation isn't stable, it's still progressing. His primary attack involves launching that tongue at high velocity toward a survivor. On contact, it wraps automatically and drags them back toward his position. If obstacles block the return path, the tongue constricts and chokes the victim in place while they're pulled helplessly backward. Survivors have approximately 1 second after being grabbed to shoot the Smoker before their arms become fully ensnared. 1 second. That's the only counterplay available to the pinned survivor. Cut the tongue and you buy yourself about 15 seconds before it regenerates. During that window, his 250 health points make him extremely vulnerable. The smoke he produces offers almost zero tactical concealment. It's more atmospheric than defensive. But considering the virus's suspected rabies-linked transmission, that smoke might represent something far more dangerous. Airborne viral transmission in its earliest form. The Smoker almost never attacks from open ground. He elevates above survivors to improve tongue trajectory and reduce early detection. He drags victims behind cover or sightline obstructions to prevent teammate rescue. Every engagement is calculated ambush predation. Now, the origin theory. And this might be the most medically grounded explanation for any special infected in the entire franchise. Heavy smoking causes tongue and throat cancer. Years of exposure create cellular structures already predisposed toward rapid, uncontrolled reproduction. The virus found those precancerous cells and hijacked them. It didn't create the growth mechanism. It weaponized one that already existed, redirecting tumor formation into functional biological weaponry. The extensive growths across his face and upper body are consistent with metastatic spread that was already underway before infection even began. Alternative theories exist. Some propose a pre-existing fungal or bacterial facial infection that the virus consumed and incorporated, explaining the tumor patterns and smoke production through spore-like characteristics. Others suggest those tongue appendages passages aren't tongues at all, but externalized internal organs, intestines, or soft tissue that escape through tumor ruptures as the body's structural integrity collapses. But step back from the smoker for a moment and look at the full picture. Every mutation we've covered follows a hidden pattern. The witch and spitter are exclusively female. The hunter, smoker, charger, tank, and jockey are exclusively male. The boomer is the only variant documented in both sexes. That's not random. That's sex hormones actively determining which mutation pathway the virus selects. The green flu isn't rolling dice, it's reading the host. Every pre-existing condition, every hormonal profile, every genetic predisposition becomes a blueprint the virus follows to build something new, and that single realization reframes everything. If you enjoyed this video and want to see more, click the video on the screen now.